Hey guys, Prowl1701 here, and today we are going to be reviewing the Season 8 Doctor Who The Collection Blu-ray set. And, well, not the whole set, but we're doing that version of the Daemons, the final story from Season 8. I've never actually seen this story before. This was my first time watching it. I'm not quite sure where to start with this one. I find it very disappointing. I am not very fond of this story, and I was surprised because it seems to hold a pretty good place in the Doctor Who mythos. People seem to like it. I really didn't care for it. I especially hated the first episode, like utterly, because I watched the first episode and then I went to bed, and then I watched the second episode the next day, and then I watched the other three the next day. And so that first episode really had time to kind of sit on my mind, and I couldn't stand that first episode. I just, I didn't like the nighttime shots because it's so dark. It's like dark. Like you can't tell what the heck is going on sometimes dark. Like, it's like I'm squinting at the screen because I somehow think squinting is going to be able to make me see it better. You ever done that? You squint even though it doesn't help. It's like being in pitch black, and you're like, but it's pitch black? That's what it is. It's kind of like the opposite. You know how some of the old black and white TV shows like Perry Mason, they would film what's supposed to be nighttime in the daytime with just kind of a filter over it, and you could still tell it was the daytime because you could see the shadows everywhere of the trees and the people. You could see their shadows. And you're like, yeah, that's not nighttime. This is the opposite. It's nighttime. And it's like the blackest black to ever black. It is black. You can't hardly see anything. So I didn't really like that. And I really hated that reporter. My God, I hated that reporter. Every time he talked, agony. Like there was one time when he's inside like the little sacrificial room where the climax of the story takes place, and he's talking about something. I can't tell you what he's talking about. I can't tell you a single word he said because I completely zoned out. It was so uninteresting. I was just like, nope. My mind said, nope, I'm out of here. I'm going to go over here and think about pollen and how much I'm going to really hate having to wash it off my Corvette yet again, because that's very annoying. Literally, every time I'm listening to the reporter talk, I just want to force choking through the screen. Like, come on, Lord, just let me force choking through the screen right here. There's a part where he's like, there's a lot of excitement. And I'm like, no, there's not. What are they going to find behind the stone wall? Your strangled corpse. If I can just get this force power to work. Tell you who I absolutely loved in this episode. That professor. I absolutely loved that professor because he seemed to have the same opinion of the reporter as I do. He didn't like the reporter either, and he kept shutting the reporter up. Oh, God bless that man. God bless that man. You know, anytime the reporter would say something, he'd either have like a sarcastic reply or a deadpan sarcastic reply, or else he'd just cut him off mid-sentence. I loved that. I was enjoying that. I was a huge fan of the professor. So, I was extremely upset early in the second episode when I found out the professor died by getting froze to death. That line when the doctor's like, talking about the doctor when he thought the doctor was dead, and he's like, he's gone just like the professor. I'm like, the professor died? No, that's my buddy. No, he's the guy who shuts up the reporter. I need the professor to live. I was more upset than almost any modern Who companion that's left. I was that upset. Yes, I was like, okay, I don't want to lose Rose, but I got to keep that professor. You can have Rose, but I need the professor. I need somebody to shut the reporter up. I was upset, like seriously. It's like Tenet regenerated. I was like, no. And then luckily, the reporter actually leaves early in season 2. And I kind of realized that the reporter wasn't coming back. And I'm over there, oh, thank God. Oh, God, it's okay. He's gone now. He's not coming back. Oh, thank God. Yes, I brought this out just so I could do that. God, I really hated that reporter. So, now that I've got that out of the way, most of the guest cast other than that are fine in this. The John is great. Katie is great. John Levine is great. Richard Franklin is great. Roger is still great as the Master. He doesn't quite have the calm going on that he does in, like, say, the first two stories. He's a little more animated, and I think I like that really calm, reserved demeanor he has in his first two stories a little better. But he's still fantastic in this. And he is back to having a well-thought-out plan. In Claws of Axos, he was kind of having to fly by the seat of the pants. But in Colony in Space, the Master's plan didn't really seem as well thought out. He just kind of seemed like he was winging it, unlike the first two stories where he really had everything planned out and contingencies planned out. He's very much back to that in the Demons, or the Daemons, however you want to pronounce it, where he seems to have everything planned out and he has everything kind of working like clockwork the way he wants it to. I like that. Seems like a nice, quaint village, so you automatically know there's something sinister going on, because that's just how that works in Doctor Who. If they ever have a Doctor Who episode where they go to a quaint, nice village and it turns out to be a quaint, nice village, I'm going to be utterly surprised. I have some issues, but, there's a couple things I like. I like the little barrier surrounding the town. I thought that was a neat idea, how they did some of the effects there, like the Brigadier's little swagger stick kind of catching fire. That was pretty neat. I enjoyed the idea of that. I like how they tried to make it very realistic, where whenever the Azrael or the creature kind of grows or shrinks, it releases energy. The mass converts into energy equals MC squared, which creates either a heat or cold, which is pretty neat. Although why it only does cold the first time and heat all the other times is kind of weird, but I still like the idea in theory. That was pretty neat. Joe, that scene at the end of episode 4. Actually, let me start off by talking about the restoration work. Episode 4 does look noticeably better. And yes, I know episode 4 is the only one that's original Master still exists. And it is noticeable. Now, how much of it is because I know going in that episode 4 still exists and the others are restored? How much of it is my pre-knowledge of that going in, and how much of it is simply you can tell by looking at it, is up for debate. But I did know going in, and I really can't tell on the Master's little red ceremonial robe he wears. It looks really nice and vibrant in episode 4, but in episode 5 it looks very blurry. The colors are really weird on it. It looks kind of like a 4th or 5th generation VHS tape that's, a copy of a copy of a copy. It doesn't look as good. You notice this also on the location footage. It doesn't look as good. Again, the studio footage looks better than the location footage in these. But overall, the restoration's fine. I'm cool with it. It was just something I made note in my head. Boy, episode 4 looks really good. But the others are fine. And if that's as good as we're going to get, I'm happy to have that, considering that we have it at all. Again, going back to Joe, that scene at the end of episode 4 when her and Yates are hiding in that room, and then the Master's about to sacrifice a bird. It looks like he's holding a bird. Maybe I'm mistaken, but it looked like he's about to sacrifice a bird, and Joe runs out going, "No!" And I literally, again, this is the first time I've ever seen the story, I literally out loud and loudly went, "You dumb bitch." Seriously. I mean, imagine you're hiding from these people. Hiding is what's keeping you alive or keeping you uncaptured. And they're about to sacrifice a bird. Not a person, not even a dog or a cat, a bird. And he just runs out, "No, you can't." I'm like, oh, fuck. If I had been Mike Yates, I would have been over there, "Wait, no, stupid." Yeah, it's a good thing I wasn't Mike Yates. I wouldn't have been so quick to run out to get rescue. When he's tied up, I've got to get out and get help. Think I'll wait till after they sacrifice her. Yeah, literally out loud, I was like, "No, you stupid." Yeah, that. Let me get my train of thought back, because that really did annoy me. And then there's that part where the whole villagers just kind of turn on the Doctor on a dime. They're doing their little pagan parade or whatever it is they're doing. And I'm watching it, and all right, quaint little town. And then the Doctor walks by, and suddenly everybody turns on him at once. And then they point a gun at him, then they tie him up. Everybody just seems in on this. They're like, "Yeah, all right." And when, they suddenly go from peaceful to let's burn him like a witch. And immediately, as soon as the one guy goes, let's burn him, another guy's like, yeah, burn him. I'm like, what? The closest thing I've ever seen to that are riots in Portland. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's like Anakin's turn in episode 3. You know, what have I done? 60 seconds later, I pledge myself to your teachings. It's like that here. People are running around having their little parade. 60 seconds later, let's burn him! What the fuck is up with these townspeople? That's insane. Yeah, just it happens so fast and it's out of nowhere. The ending scene, also, by the way, the little gargoyle when it's in human form looks like pajamas. Does not look good at all. Looks pajama. Like, anytime I see the stone gargoyle in its kind of mobile form, I'm like, it looks like it's going trick-or-treating. I can't get, I get it's classic Who. I know. You know, I mean, it's not exactly bubble wrap for the Ark in Space, which for some reason I can accept. Maybe it's because I saw that as a kid. But for this one, when I see him running around in the pajamas, it looks so silly that it takes me out of the moment. It just looks silly. I'm like, somebody give that boy some candy. Toss some candy in his pumpkin bin. I did not like that. It didn't work for me. I do love at the end when John first runs down to the hall after the Azrael or whatever his name is has been summoned. And when he runs in, you see him look up, because he's supposed to be seeing how tall this creature is. And that look on John's face, that, you know, that oh shit look? That oh shit. You know, we've all had that. It's kind of like, it's like he knew it was bad. He knew everything kind of going on, and he knew it was bad. But he didn't quite realize how bad it was until he actually saw it. And that's when he started to realize how bad it actually was. You know, we've all had that where you know something is bad, but when you actually see it, you start to grasp just how bad it is. That was the oh shit look on his face. You could just see the dawning. It's really nice, though, how he does that to kind of sell that he's seeing this creature and that it's really immense. And then you have the talk with the creature who might give his powers to the master, might not. Then just for some reason he changes his mind and wants to give it to the doctor. And when the doctor refuses, which is a great moment for the doctor, by the way. I do love that moment. The doctor is just immediately like, no, I don't want it. That's a very doctor thing to do. Very, very doctor. I do love that moment in a bubble by itself. It's beautiful. There's no hesitation. He just immediately, no, I don't want it. And he's very emphatic about it. Love that moment. Bottle that moment. Jodie Whittaker could learn so much from just those few seconds. It's very, very, very the doctor. But then, of course, he's immediately like, okay, I'll give it to the master back, and then I'll destroy you. And I'm like, wait, okay, you did this, then you did this, now you're doing that. I'm getting dizzy. Make up your mind. You are more uncertain than most of the girls I've dated. Pick something and stick with it. I do like that it has that one line from the master, then you shall give your power to me. I'm pretty sure that's the line they used from him in Utopia right before he opens the watch. You know, you hear that voice from Roger's, you hear that line from Roger's master right in Utopia in the modern series when the professor's about to open the watch and become the master again. And I always knew that was an old line from Roger. I just wasn't sure what story it was from. So when I heard it here, that was the first thing that popped in my mind. Holy crap, that's that line from Utopia. And I love Utopia. Utopia is such a good episode, such a great way to introduce the master for the modern series, and for fans who's this will be their first time to see him, for a lot of fans who weren't familiar with the classic series really. So I love that line, really affects me. So when I heard him say it, I was like, I did like that moment. The guy playing Azrael, Stephen, I believe is his name. The problem is with that voice of his, I immediately recognize it as Omega's. Immediately. It's Omega's voice, because I love the Three Doctors, and I love him playing Omega. He does such a good Omega with that booming voice. But the problem is, anytime I hear that voice anywhere else, I'm immediately like, oh yeah, that's Omega. I have the same problem in The Hand of Fear when he's playing the male Eldred. I forget the name right now. Eldrad, whatever it is. When he's playing the male version in episode 4, immediately I'm like, that's Omega. So it takes me out a little bit that while that is a good voice, it's so associated with Omega to me, and it's so recognizable at that's the only thing I can think right there. It's Omega. And then there's the part at the end where he tries to kill the doctor, and then when Katie gets in the way, it causes problems. First off, if the little gargoyle thing, Bach, can kill people instantly with his I mean, they just die, they're gone. Then how come this thing that's supposed to be way more powerful is having to slowly force lightning the doctor to death? Couldn't he just and kill him if he's that much more powerful? Or maybe he's just slowly trying to do it. Maybe he's like the Emperor, he just wants to torture him. I don't know. The part I don't get is Katie getting in the way causes some kind of problem, which, you know, they don't really give any explanation until a bit later. So all I see is, okay, this is bad. He's killing the doctor. He's about to give the master power. Katie steps in front of him. Suddenly he's, oh, and I'm like, okay. Obviously something has gone wrong. Obviously the bad guy is dying. There's earthquakes going on. Somehow he's been defeated. Not quite sure how. Do I need to rewind and watch again? Very confusing. Seeing everybody running out, church blowing up, and I'm sitting here watching the model church blow up and go, ooh, that's not going to go over well with people. Trust me, I live in a very religious part of the country where pretty much every third building is a church, which is really great for the offerings, which they use the money to build more churches for some reason. But yeah, because I'm especially guessing in 1971, that was a kind of one of those moments people were like, kind of like now. It's kind of weird because like people were really sensitive about stuff like that, violence and blowing up church, stuff like that in the 70s. And then kind of in the 90s and 2000s, you probably could have got away with it. But now that we're in like 2021, everybody's so hypersensitive about everything that you would probably also get in a lot of trouble for that today. So we've kind of come full circle. And then there's the explanation the doctor gives about, well, he didn't expect that. When you did the self-sacrifice thing to save me, it didn't expect that, and it caused him to like overload and die. I'm like, isn't this pretty much the same as like Closing Time when, you know, Craig and the doctor beat the Cybermen with love? Isn't it like the same? Isn't this like Closing Time before Closing Time? You know, he did it through self-sacrifice, friendship, caring, and love. This is the part where I roll my eyes. Seriously, I feel like the ending to the Daemons feels like a Deus Ex Machina ending, just like Closing Times. And I don't care for it. It doesn't work for me. I'm like, that's it? This omnipotent creature is supposed to be so powerful, so strong, yada, 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 yada. They beat it that easy? Well, it couldn't comprehend. I didn't care for this one. Now, that being said, I don't hate the episode. I don't really like the episode. It's watchable. I'll go back and watch it again at some point. Roger Delgado and John Pertwee and Katie Manning are amazing. But it's not going to be one I go back toward for a while. I didn't really care for it. And like I was already thinking, well, at least it can't be worse than the Claws of Axos, because I didn't really care for that one either, except for episode 4, which I thought was pretty good. At least it can't be any worse than that. And besides, it's the only one left I gotta watch. And it has a good reputation. Then I watched it and I'm like, ooh, that ranking video is going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tricky one. Going to have to think about that. So I will have a ranking video of Season 8 coming eventually. And then I'll have a season review coming as well. Those will be separate videos where I'll talk about each story and how they relate to each other. So that is my thoughts on the Daemons. And yes, I'm not very kind to it. I don't know. Sometimes I don't get in the mood to put up with nonsense. So what do you think of the Daemons? What do you think of my review of the Daemons? I'm very free with my opinions. What do you think overall? Comment down below. You know, I always enjoy interacting with you guys, getting your feedback and hearing your thoughts on it. Other things to do, click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications. I have started a Patreon page if you would like to contribute to that. There's a link to that down below. But most importantly, stay safe out there, and thank you for watching.